Can you hear that in the background on the very edge of your senses? It's the song of the humpback whale, scientific name Megaterra noviatia. Specifically, it's a male. They're the only ones who sing. Humpback whales are rorquals, titanic organisms who feed by filtering zooplankton, krill, and small fish through the baleen in their mouths and grow up to 17 meters and 40 tons. Like all organisms, they are, of course, mortal, and after a life of perhaps 50 years, will die, which begs the eternal question: what happens next? As it turns out, what happens next is often a whale fall, an archipelago of richness and diversity in the cold, dark waters of the deep ocean, formed from the flesh and bone of a fallen titan. Of course, not all dead whales become whale falls. Baleen whales are typically denser than water and sink as their lungs deflate, but they have to be in water deep enough that the pressure prevents them from rising again as they decay and bloat with gas. Whales that die close to shore may also be washed up instead. Whale falls also tend to form more often in colder waters. Whale falls form ecosystems in their own right. Effectively, no light reaches the depths they often occur at, 1 kilometer or greater in the bathypelagic and abyssopelagic zones, which means that there is no energy available to be fixed into organic chemical forms by photosynthesis. The inhabitants of these sepulchral depths must rely on organic detritus, which drifts down from the photic zone, or on chemosynthetic bacteria, which use energy from oxidizing inorganic molecules like hydrogen sulfide or ammonium to fix carbon into organic forms. The intact corpse of a large whale represents a truly massive input of organic matter and energy into this environment, which can support a dense, diverse community of both generalist feeders drawn to such a bounty and an array of specialists who have evolved to depend specifically on whale fall ecosystems. The carbon bounty of whale falls means that they play an important role in the marine biological carbon pump, the process by which carbon from the atmosphere or from runoff is taken into the ocean and transferred from the surface down to the bottom, where it is stored in the sediment. The carcass of a 40-ton whale, like our humpback, contains 2 tons of organic carbon. It would take 100 to 200 years for that same amount of carbon to reach a hectare of abyssal zone seafloor through the ordinary marine snow of detritus. Oceanic carbon pump's role in regulating atmospheric carbon levels is essential, as it takes in around 10 gigatons of carbon per year to be locked away in sediment on the seafloor for millennia before gradually being returned to the cycle by thermohaline currents. There is currently increasing concern that industrial whaling, by removing large whales from the oceanic pump, has noticeably reduced its ability to transport and store carbon at the seafloor, which should be of particular concern to us given the rapid increase in atmospheric carbon levels currently driving anthropogenic climate change. Whale fall ecosystems appear to have 4 distinct successional stages. In the first and shortest stage, the majority of the whale's soft tissue is stripped away by large generalist scavengers, your hagfish and your deep-sea sleeper sharks. Next, the whale's bones are colonized by a diversity of specialist heterotrophs, a lot of polychaete worms and crustaceans, which feed off soft tissue remnants in the bones, the nutrient-rich sediment surrounding the corpse, the bones themselves, and of course, each other, as large whale falls can support up to 5 different trophic levels of organisms. After the skeleton has been stripped of digestible matter, it is taken over by a new assembly of organisms, this one based on chemosynthetic bacteria that fix carbon using sulfides and methane let off by the anaerobic decay of lipids in the bones. Finally, the whale ends its afterlife as a reef formed from the remaining mineralized bone tissues, used as a home and shelter by suspension feeders who eat detritus drifting from the surface. Osedax tube worms are one particularly remarkable whalefall denizen. They fix themselves to the skeleton and feed on the lipids and collagen of the bones themselves. They're so specialized for this purpose that they've given up their gut tract in favor of a unique root organ that bores into the bones and uses enzymes and endosymbiotic bacteria to degrade bone tissue into usable nutrients. They're also allogenic ecosystem engineers. As they eat, their roots create porous spaces in the bone, which are colonized and used as a shelter by other organisms. Whales live, die, and in death, their being that becomes a substrate for new life, which in its own turn is reabsorbed into the overall ecosystem. This interconnectedness, this knowledge that all organisms are inescapably part of, and will be, like it or not, in the case of many modern people, one day returned to the ecosystems they inhabit, is a common thread in the traditional ecological knowledge of many indigenous cultures, and something we should be well advised to consider. Let us ensure that whale populations are sustainable and healthy to help keep the carbon cycle balanced globally, which is good for all life, us included, and so that the unique and eclectic organisms that make a life on their corpses continue to have a place to call home.